All right, guys, welcome back to the second episode of Paper Movies. I'm Adam from Brian's Nerd Pub, and today we have the Geeks Attic, Matthew Wilson, and we have Jeremy from Stupid Chainsaw Productions. How you-
Hello.
It's awesome. I'm excited about this book this month.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the novelization to Dragonslayer.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm actually proud of Jeremy this time for actually having a physical copy.
Yeah.
No concept, I know.
But yeah, this was the novelization of the film from, it was like 1981.
1981. Yeah, it's a
That's
Disney
right.
Lucasfilm. Not Lucasfilm. It's just a Disney Paramount. I'm so used to saying Disney Lucasfilm.
It's
But yeah,
all right.
Disney Paramount.
Paramount Lucasfilm made the Indiana Jones movies. As in Paramount distributed and Lucasfilm did everything else.
Yeah, there's like a new technology that they used in the film too. I can't remember what it's called. Go motion. Does that sound right, Jeremy?
Oh, I don't know.
They did something new for the film that wasn't really done before, which I guess Lucas
Screen.
ILM was involved, so they
Yeah.
were doing some edgy stuff there.
A fairly new ILM.
Well, Matthew, do you want to go ahead and give us the summary?
Yeah, so basically we've got this. It's an old fantasy film or book story. We'll say story, where this dragon is taking root in a village, and in order for the village to appease the dragon, they do a sacrifice twice a year on the spring and fall equinox. They do a lottery where they draw names of all the female citizens of the whole land of Erland, which is the whole nation, and it's all the younger women. So like probably I think 20 and under is all the people.
13 to mid-20s.
Yeah, and they all go in this lottery and they draw a name, and then that person is sacrificed to the dragon, and this keeps the dragon from destroying the crops, the villages, just murdering everybody. So that's how they keep the dragon at peace. And then these villagers, they go seek out a wizard, because the dragons were created by wizards, and the only way that you could really kill one is with a wizard. So these villagers go out seeking a wizard to destroy the dragon, and wizard basically, I guess, should we just go ahead and start talking about story points too now, since I'm kind of bleeding into it?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, go for it.
chapter that you're going to spoil. I know what you're going to spoil.
It's just like so they have this journey where this guy, the apprentice of the wizard, basically is the one that makes it out to Erland to put an end to the dragon, and things unfold that way. So that's basically the summary.
It's the hero's journey.
Yes.
I was going to
Better way
say,
to put it.
like, with the lottery, it's just like, that's basically the Hunger Games where no one wins.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Only this was a lot better made, not angsty, and didn't have horrible cinematography or horrible special effects. I just watched all those movies, by the way. They all suck.
Well, I was going to ask, like, how's the read for you guys? Like,
Jeremy, would you like to go first?
Yeah, first of all, I want to put this out here. This novelization, to me personally, not bashing the movie, this is superior to the movie in just about every way, to the point where you don't even necessarily need to see this movie to get something from this book. In fact, if Matthew had told me that this was just a great novel and was not based on a motion picture, I would have believed him. If it didn't say right at the bottom that it's based on a motion picture, like,
dude,
I would have known.
As I was reading it, that I was feeling this. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, as I was reading this, I was just like, I'm surprised that this wasn't like a novel before it was made into a movie. Like,
Yeah.
and because reading this, like, you can actually get, you know, the impression that, like, wow, the book must have come first, because it goes like very in depth to a lot of things, and yeah, it was just I'm normally not one to read like a lot of fantasy, like with wizards and dragons and stuff like that, but I actually, you know, enjoyed keeping up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely different than the movie. All the same story points. There's so much in the book that's not in the film, which
Mm-hmm.
is insane because, like we said, me and Adam have the paperback. Jeremy has the hardcover with him. I have the hardcover too, but it's easier for me to carry the paperback around. But it's only 218 pages, so it's pretty short. However, I think if this was a novel that was printed today, it'd probably be around 300 and so pages. You think? Because
Yeah, and I don't know because the hardcover is 183 pages.
mhm.
I think that's the perfect length for this.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
could have been-
It's like the words top to bottom, and it's pretty small print too. So I know a lot of the new books like to space things out a little bit more too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the chapters are like each like 15 to 20 pages.
yeah,
except for chapter 7.
Is
Oh
that the-
yeah.
Is it
Chapter 7's like 20, 30 pages long.
Oh yeah.
There's like the break with the photos from the film, I believe, in that chapter.
Oh,
Paperback.
maybe the paperback in the hardcover, they put it in the middle of chapter 8 in the middle of a conversation. And I was just like, what? And then not to mention, there's photos in this book that are direct spoilers of what's to come with captions
Wow.
explaining exactly what these stills from the film are. And I'm like, oh, spoilers. I'm glad I've already seen this movie.
You know, I did also notice that like the book and the movie are almost like opposites in the way that the book actually, you know, goes into depth over things that you don't see in the movie. And with the movie, it's completely different. Like the movie actually, you know, it's all about like, you know, like Ulrich getting killed or the priest getting engulfed in fire. But like with the book, like it just like with one sentence, you know, they said like, and the priest was engulfed in fire. Then moving on, you know, that's just,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. See, I've got a list of notes next to me here too that I took while I was reading that. So when I'm looking around on my computer, I'm going to read some notes. So like I wrote down about the beginning, the description and scene setting in the beginning was absolutely incredible for me. There's so much explanation and descriptions that are going on that
Mhm.
aren't in the film, and it really sets the mood and the tone for everything that's going to follow. You know, to me, that gritty 80s movie film vibe that you get when you watch those old movies, you know, there's like the little grainy, like
Mhm.
everything looks foggy kind of. You get that when you're reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my thing with it is the book could do things that, with the dragon especially, the film, they did not have the technology to do. 'Cause this film has still, I don't know. It may be cooler than the animatronic they had for the close-ups in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire for the Hungarian Horntail, which when it was a close-up, that's a puppet, which is really awesome. But this Vermithrax is what the
Dragon.
Yeah.
name is.
Yep.
When it flies in the movie, it dates the movie immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. it
The
does.
only scene that really destroys it for me, since you go into the movie, the visual effects when Galen is in the cave and Vermithrax is like in the water, you can see where it's cut and just placed on top of the film.
Yeah, when they're using rear screen projection.
Right.
Yeah, which was state of the art at the time. That looks better though, I'll be honest, than anytime James Cameron uses that in his movies. Watch the original Terminator or Aliens, or I think they actually do it in The Abyss too, but it's been a long time since I watched that. When you watch those, it's clear that they're on a blue screen and that they're reacting to something. Granted, it's usually something awesome in stop motion, which stop motion always looks fun, but like it just looks bad. But that didn't bother me so much. As soon as the dragon flies and its wings don't move,
Mhm.
Yeah.
where in the book it's doing all of these like swan dives.
Oh yeah. Like I
Yeah.
love it in the ending. We're just gonna jump around, right, when we talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because something like what you're just talking about, the way it moves at the end, whenever the dragon comes and to grab Ulrich, he's like slipping on the edge, and he's just like trying to grab him, the wizard, with his other talon, and he can't really. The dragon can't seem to really do it, so he like gives up and tries again. I keep calling him a he; it's a she.
It's
It's an it.
it
Yeah.
has, it's like, because it has babies, but it doesn't have a mate. So
Right.
it's
Right.
like Godzilla in the '98 movie.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, it did say, I think, once, and I think there was one contradiction that I found when the dragon. There was another one. They were all over the world at one time, and I believe it says that it did find a mate, and then the other one went off and died or something. But I think it says when Ulrich is talking about it in the beginning that the eyes don't close, like the eyes are always open or something. But later on, it mentions that like its eyes closed and it fell asleep or something to that. But I was like, wait a second, I thought it said that the dragon's eyes were always open.
Well, in the first, so the number one thing I liked about this novel is that Vermithrax, we get its perspective.
Yeah.
Which I found utterly fascinating as someone who's a fan of Dragonlance, where in that series of books, the dragons can take human form or the form of an elf or something like that. They're magical and they talk to their riders and stuff. So like, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Vermithrax doesn't talk to the humans,
right?
Which is refreshing, but it's intelligent,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just like the book also went to perspective on like other characters too, like like Melissa. I'm sorry.
I like Gringe, the Raven, the White Raven.
yeah, and Melissa, who was Vermithrax's first victim that we see in the movie and read about in the book, and the priest Jacobus or what?
Yeah, Jacobus or something.
Jacobus, yeah. But yeah, and also speaking of which, like some of these characters are more prominent in the book than they are in the film. Like Jacobus, I just remembered, like, and that was the person that Ian McDiarmid played, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, like I if I remember correctly, I've only seen this movie like once a few months ago, but that was the only time you see him in the movie. It's like
very briefly.
Yeah, and then but in the book, he's in there like on several occasions.
Oh yeah, having a big meeting with the villagers, and then I love how he goes and faces the dragon in the book way more than I do in the film. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
but with Galen, okay, I love how the book dives into his history. In the movie, he's just the guy, the apprentice, sitting there with Ulrich, the main wizard, but he has no motivation, no care at all for being a sorcerer. He's like, I just want to get out of here. I want to go do my own thing. But Ulrich is like, no, you gotta do this. I'm teaching you everything that I know. You have to pass it on. The reason he's there is because his parents basically sold them to Ulrich because he was conjuring up animals and doing other weird sorcery things that they didn't want to happen around them. So they gave him to a wizard to become an apprentice, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, you go back into the whole orphanage like type story where it's like, oh, some kid without his parents, but he was raised by somebody his entire life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a really cool take in the book of getting Galen's history. And even with Ulrich looking in the big bowl of water that is like a vision into the future, the past, and the present, showing different things in the past. We get a glimpse of how the dragons were made. I thought that was very interesting too. I mean, like you said, like the book being under, 220 pages, it gives so much detail that I never thought that it would, like a 220-page book would. It's incredible. Waylon Drew did an amazing job.
Would you say it gives more detail that we care about, unlike Jason Fry's novelization of The Last Jedi? With the rock, paper, scissors game in the sewer.
This book, everything in this book, I thoroughly enjoyed.
I was gonna say a couple of things. Like one, the one thing that I thought the movie maybe did better on was that scene with in the book where how like Galen is summoned by the king, because he wanted to meet the dragon, and I felt like in the film, his encounter with the king was more humiliating than it was in the book because, you see Galen actually try to show them his his sorcery, but he fails at it. And then, but in the book, I just kind of remember it just being kind of like an interview or something like that. You know, so like, no, the dragon is dead. I killed it. And he was like, no, you didn't. You know.
Yeah, that's true. The book does have, or the movie has some things that the book doesn't have that could be a little bit better. But yeah, him kind of being embarrassed in front of the king Cassiodorus and all of his like little henchmen or whatever you want to call king's people. But yeah,
but they. But I was gonna say but what they did the same is that I remember Galen in that scene, like he didn't show his embarrassment or his fear, and they even actually mentioned that in the book, like he did not show his fear, like when they said that they were gonna lock him up, he just kind of kept his head held up tight, and just stared him down and everything. I thought that was cool that they included that in the book.
Yeah, and it's funny too because they mentioned that the king had some sort of like birth defect that made him like a mouth breather.
Yeah.
Always open, and I was like, "That's really interesting, like a weird detail to put in the book." Because like then you think in the movie, the king always did have his mouth open. So if they like based the book, I mean, if he got like a script to base the book off of, which is I think is how it all usually works.
Yes,
I really want to know what that script looked like because there were so many things that were changed, so many things that were added.
I will say in both the movie and the book, the character of Princess Elspeth. Yeah, she's probably like the most genuine, good character because one, she's being real the whole time. And when she finds out that her father has been trying to keep her from the lottery, she immediately makes sure that,
fixes that issue. Yeah,
like, and that's seen in both the film and read in the book. And I was just like, that's awesome. It's just like, because, with Galen, he's being something he's not, or trying to show off in a way. But I just thought that was actually kind of cool that
yeah, they even make her Elspeth like kind of a slower, I thought, in the book, like she's just completely oblivious to everything.
Well, they made her come off as she was so sheltered that she was still a child as an adult.
Yeah. It worked for me.
Oh yeah, no, it worked for me as well. If anything, if I have one complaint about this book, it is the switch from her going from being like being childish to like, oh, I need to cheat the lottery so that I'm chosen.
Right.
And kind of rushed over.
Yeah.
A little bit. But that's like a nitpick.
Yeah, I can see that. Things that were really interesting too is that Kraganmore, when in Ulrich and Galen's little castle, I thought it was cool that they like Galen destroyed it, but when they left, it's like, oh well, we don't want to give this over to the robbers and to crooked people, so let's just tear it down. So it's like after the little test failed with Ulrich and Tyrion, which it really didn't fail, it's like, let's get out of here. Let's follow him. Hodge, poor Hodge. I liked him as a character too. Crazy
I did.
Speaking of which, did you guys think that Tyrion was more intimidating in the book than the film? Because for some reason, like during the fight scene where he and Galen are fighting, I don't know, like he mentioned something like to Galen, just like he's like, "You're gonna regret that." I was just like, "Ooh."
Yeah, he was intimidating, but he was also seemed a little bit more forgiving in a way, or merciful to me in the book towards Galen. Anyway.
Oh, okay. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so yeah, you very well could be right. Yeah.
The only difference I saw is he seemed more intelligent and cunning in the book. In the movie, he's more like just the thug, the leading thug of all of the king's thugs. Like, and he just like has more lines, and he's just supposed to be so Galen can have a sword fight with him.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I loved it in the movie, and I loved it in the book.
Yeah, and what's cool too with Tyrion in the novel is he admits like he's not afraid of anything. He's like, I've never admitted to fear, to pain, to anything. But when he mentions something about the dragon actually being dead, he's like, do you fear that he's not? Something like that. I could be wrong what I'm talking about, but Tyrion actually, like, he says, yeah, I'm afraid. Like, he confesses his fear to Cassiodorus, the king, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked that, like I respect characters like that when, they're strong, like they know how to fight and everything, but they're up front with like, oh man, this thing scares me, like, but they still face it anyway.
Yeah. So I've got a bunch of notes on a lot of this stuff, like Gringe, the White Raven. I thought he was pretty, like, he was like a little comic relief throughout the whole thing, but also drove the story in crazy places too, you know?
Yeah, he wasn't overused. He was not a Jar Jar Binks.
No. No. And it's like, you just see it, like, he just kind of disappears, and, you know, Galen recognizes them, and, like, when he's in that cell, the prison cell, he sees the bird out there playing around with that Elspeth, and he's like, Gringe? And then like, Gringe comes over to the window and just, like, says something to him, and then just takes off, and you're like, what? Come back. You know, then he sees him later on, too, like, hanging around the Blight area. It was cool, and he actually saves the day too, like saves Valerian's life. So that was neat. When the dragon at the end was gonna come down and take her out, he swoops in and like starts pecking at the eyes of Vermithrax, which throws Vermithrax off. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I remember that part.
And then he dies.
Yeah, he gets turned into the Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah.
Pivoting to Valerian, I liked her in the book far more than I liked her in the movie. In the movie, I found her kind of annoying, but in this, like, they give. Do I spoil that?
This is.
I mean.
Okay.
Cool.
So,
alert, everyone. Yeah.
Valerian, her whole life, her father's been protecting her, and has disguised her as a boy.
Yeah.
Her whole life. And then when we have a little, like, we think Galen, well, I mean, I didn't think for a second Galen killed the dragon with a rock slide, because I mean, I knew I had another 100 pages to go. You know, but to reveal that she's a woman. And also they talk about it like this is, oh gosh, it's like a third of the book. They don't reference Valerian's sex, like, at all. There's a reveal scene which is in the movie. I'm not sure how it didn't get an R rating.
Yeah.
Full frontal.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, that scene in the book was less weird.
It was more about Galen's discovery of, like, self-awareness, kind of, with.
Yeah, it was another part of, like, the it was like a coming of age thing.
Yeah, because he'd never, like, seen women, except it says it like one other time, because the other times he's just been with two old men his entire life. You know, he was given over when he was a child. He says he saw some, like, women up the river swimming with no clothes on, so he's like, what's that? And then again he sees it and he's like, oh, I felt this just tickle up my leg. You're like, all right.
Well, it was in the movie, what weirded me out was that I remember him talking to Valerian, saying he was just like, oh yeah, I knew you were a woman the whole time. And I'm just like, that's kind of, I don't know if that
it's played off as comedic in the movie.
Yeah,
it worked in 81, but it really doesn't in 2020.
Yeah, well, like, what I like about it though too is, like, in the it's all, like, innocent too. You know, they play it, like, I think if this book and movie were written today, it'd be, like, real pervy and just creepy. But, like, it even says when the Erlanders were at Kraganmore, like, Galen's like, there's something about that Valerian that's just different. Why am I attracted to that person? And then you, like, find out, okay.
It's like, oh,
yeah, okay, that's why. I knew it. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting take.
Yeah, also, we don't get. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Adam. I just ran over the top of you.
No. Go for it.
We also don't get the what I found most annoying in the movie, and I'm bashing this movie a little bit. And don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic film that I think everyone should watch, like, genuinely. But there's, like, this forced love triangle thing going on in the movie between, does Galen like the princess or Valerian? And we don't get that at all. Waylon says, nah, we're not putting that in here.
Yeah. It even says, like, Galen stayed through the summer, and said like they became lovers. So it's like, oh, there is a relationship. In the movie, it's kind of like, we just got here to this city and you love me. So they have like a
Yeah.
relationship, and you're like, that was pretty fast.
Yeah, I noticed that too in the book. Like in the film, this whole story looks like it, takes place within like a few days or a couple of weeks or something like that. But in the book, like, it mentions that like, oh yeah, I've been here for like half a year or something like that. And
Yeah, he's not allowed to leave the village. The king's men are like watching out for him.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's like to go back to Star Wars. And Empire Strikes Back.
I knew you were going to say this.
The most time elapses in that Star Wars movie, and you would never know. I thought that for years that Luke trained with Yoda for like a week, but it's more like months.
Yeah.
That Han and Leia and Chewie are on Cloud City for, I think it's like 3 months. But in the movie, you got to keep it like fast paced. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I was actually going to mention like I mentioned Melissa earlier, and I mentioned that they made her like her death more tragic than they did in the film because they actually gave you like her backstory of like when she was chosen as part of the lottery, and it was I don't know, just to me that was just like, oh, I really don't want this, and like I really don't want this girl to be killed by the dragon now, So.
Yeah, gives it like the last moments with her family,
and
then later on we get to meet her parents again, and her mom is like kind of crazy from it when she like this has a conversation with Valerian and Galen.
Yeah, but it's also talking to Melissa, and Melissa's not there.
Yeah, so she's just lost her mind.
Yeah, because in the way it's set up in the movie is it's supposed to be, it's like the fake out reveal of Vermithrax in the movie, because they, with your monster, you're not going to show it that soon.
Right.
So I had a question for you guys. I was going to ask, like, we've been like discussing, like we've been updating each other like on what chapters we were like privately, but like how was like the read for you guys, like the whole reading process? Because like with most of us going back to our jobs now, or just other stuff we have to take care of. Like for me, it was a little bit more challenging than normal because like this novelization, like what threw me off was like, and I mentioned this earlier, that like like I could read this whole book and not know there was a movie. And, that's just, it was just like, because normally when you read a novelization, like you're expecting to like read, the book, with like maybe a few additional scenes or something like that, almost verbatim. But this one was like, whoa, this is like almost way different,
Yeah, vastly different, but also the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the same story structure happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with a bunch of interesting nuggets.
There's another book I want us to review eventually on Paper Movies that I've reviewed on the channel before. I won't say what, but it's very much like that, where you have the same plot points, but they're very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of like Jaws, because like in the book and the film, it's like almost the same structure, but like different scenes happen, or some of the characters are different, or like the overall formula is there. It's just kind of like it's got different elements to it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to me it was a nice easy read, but it was just like the timing for me was rough because a couple like Star Wars stuff came out that I had to push through reviews and read those real quick, and then stay on track with this book, and a lot of it too I thought like I was going to make it through a lot faster, but I just couldn't for some reason, and when I get intimidated by long chapters. I just get. So it's like I see like, oh great, chapter 7's 30 pages. It's gonna take me forever. So I'll wear myself out in a way. But I loved it. I have another note about Kraganmore. See, I love everything that happened there in the beginning.
I'm sorry. We try not to get distracted by the chat unless. Because also it's just audio that goes onto Spotify and stuff. But Matt Wilkins is just a monster. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah. one of our viewers brought up something that I wanted to address in here.
Yeah.
The brutality.
Yes.
Which on briefly in both the movie and the book, because the movie's PG at a time when PG was not neutered, where you could show blood. The princess just being gnawed on by baby dragons.
Oh, that was gruesome.
Yeah, I mean,
in the book too.
Yeah, it is.
Also, the description of how the dragon's lair smells.
Oh, I know. It made me want to throw up.
I was like, it reminds me of some of the donations we get at work. Because I've actually been in houses for a part of my old job that it was like that, where it smelt like the dragon's lair.
Or like a retail store bathroom or something like that.
Or like a truck stop bathroom.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah. Absolute nightmare. Like me, the dragon's lair was like freaky. Like just the description of it. And I'm like, Galen, don't go in here.
Yeah, I mean, like the dragon itself. I mean, it was creepy in the film, but I mean, it was like still very also creepy in the book. Like, I mean, it's just like with the film, you at least get that visual, but like when I read the book, like I was still creeped out by the dragon because I was applying what I saw in the film to like what it's doing in the book. I'm just like, Yeah.
It's some of the stuff is described exactly the way that you do see it in the film. Like when Galen is in the dragon's lair and he's got his lance and shield and he's hiding up above in like a little crevice. And he says like that, the dragon swiftly comes like walking on its front like claws and its wings. It describes that scene from the movie perfectly. But like I wanted to jump back to the Kraganmore thing. I thought the book added a lot of lore that just was incredible to me. Let's see, it says when they're explaining the dragon, I thought was better in the movie, by the way, because it's like in the book makes Ulrich seem a little bit unaware of the dragon. He's kind of like going through the library, kind of like, oh yeah, it's Vermithrax. In the movie, he's like, yeah, Vermithrax pejorative. I know that dragon. It's old, but in the book, he's like, oh, I don't know. Let's go look down in the library and go through the scrolls. And then he like sees all these different dragons that were like written about, and he's like, oh yeah, that's got to be the one. And I also love how I thought I had the notes on this one where they're talking about the fireplace in Kraganmore, where there's like all this lore attached to the mortar that they use to build the fireplace. How there's like bones of one of the kings that used to live there. I want to look through my notes real quick. I know that I wrote this down because I thought it was really cool about the Kraganmore. There's the lore built into the castle. An ancient Mauve, some dude had 3 wives that betrayed him for warriors, so he had them killed and used their bones as mortar to build the hearth.
Yeah, and he felt bad about it because they were so beautiful, but they cheated on him.
Yeah, and there were like several other like sorcerers that had lived in that castle throughout the time. And he had a couple mentioned, like Belisarius and Pleximus. I thought that would have been pretty cool to dive even more into those guys. But
no, you're absolutely right. Like you get like all of this additional lore. Like I kind of felt like when the novelization was like there to explain like what we see in the movie, like give you like a backstory, like of like certain characters that we probably wouldn't think twice about if we saw the movie. But no, like I like that too.
Yeah. The lottery. It would suck to be a part of a lottery like that. Getting your name thrown in a big leather jar or a big mason jar. And
I'd hate to see what the Powerball comparison to that would be.
Yeah. And what was the guy's name that had to read the Codex Dracorum?
Oh, I can't remember. I
don't know why I can't remember it either. But
everyone has a weird name in this book.
They do. Yeah. I love the names. I thought
they're fine for me. Like, it's better than some fantasy I've read where it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
Way to say Legolas and not say Legolas.
Vermithrax's name in the book. I can't remember this one. Did it say Vermithrax pejorative, or just Vermithrax, the great worm?
I don't remember, man.
Because I know in the movie, Earl Ulrich, when they're talking about it in Kraganmore, he's like, "Oh, Vermithrax pejorative," like he's having a PTSD moment.
I think I remember what you're talking about. I just can't remember like what page it was on.
I don't know if it did say pejorative in here, just like the last.
I can't quite remember either.
There are several different versions of this. I know one of the members of the book club posted a cover on in the Facebook group. I guess it's the German copy. I don't know if it was print or like an ebook, but I've got a couple different versions here of the book that I wanted to show you guys if you want to look at them.
Yeah, go for it.
This one, I believe, is the Canadian. I have to look first. I should have done this before the video started. This is the Great Britain edition. Sorry.
Oh, nice.
Cover. It's got Galen on there with a shield.
Mm-hmm.
Way better than the American version.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
I hate this cover.
Neither cover's particularly good, but the American one's better.
Well, this one you get the picture of at least it's the lance on there that he uses, which is Sicarus Dracorum was the name.
Yeah, I just actually saw that word.
A Roman name.
Yeah.
But the Saxon weapon, I guess. I don't know. There's so many Saxons and Romans fighting one another, and Romans breeding with the Saxons. It's
yeah. See, this Great Britain one says a sweeping mystical fantasy, now a spectacular film. So this book must have come out before the film.
Well,
like,
yeah.
They usually did that though, right?
That's what they did. They were part of the marketing campaign.
Okay.
In fact, usually, a lot of times, these would be written a year before the film would come out.
Well, then that would probably make sense, like why I was like, this should have been a novel first before it was a movie. So, yeah, that's probably... Well,
releasing the movie novelization after the movie comes out is a Disney thing.
This is a UK amount and a New Zealand amount for the price down there. That's neat. I do have Go ahead.
Yeah, releasing movie novelizations after the movie's out of theaters is a dumb Disney thing. That's not normal, but for some reason it's becoming the standard, and I hate it. I hate it so much.
I was actually going to ask, I probably should have looked this up before we started recording, but has Waylon Drew written anything else?
He did. He did the Willow novelization, I believe.
Oh, he did?
I think. I could be wrong.
I'll look this up.
But yeah, while you do that, I'll show you
if that's what you're asking.
Do what?
He's not written any Star Wars, to my knowledge.
No, I don't think so. But he was a fantastic writer. I have the Canadian version, which to me is the best cover.
Yes, he did write Willow. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
You got Ulrich over here and Galen. Vermithrax swooping down. And then you just got a close-up of his face on the back.
I have to say, the actor that played Galen, I think his name's Peter MacNicol, I think. Mm-hmm. I feel I think, one, this was the first movie he was ever in. And two, I think this is the only action type role that he's ever played where, most of the roles that I've seen him in are, more comedies. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. We do know this is a random. Well, I'll go ahead and show you the last cover that I have here. I actually there's a comic book adaptation, which is what I'm going to show you. But there are 2 issues of the comic. It's this one though. I have both of those, but this is the collection of both of them in one. The paperback.
Which that's the best cover.
I was about to say Vermithrax looks terrifying.
Yeah, really evil. You got a real picture photo on the back from the film.
Part of me wants to address this comment in the comments section of releasing a book after the movie comes out fixes the plot holes. No, that's then you shouldn't make bad movies.
This is 1980s Disney, not 2020 Disney.
Yeah, this is in a pre-Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy era.
Yeah, and by the way, this is all published by Del Rey.
Of course, like Del Rey is like one of the biggest publishing companies ever.
Except the UK version, Fontana.
Well, because there's no Del Rey in the UK.
Right.
Because like Star Wars books now are in the UK are published under Century. At least they used to be. I don't know if yes they are now because I have an oversized paperback of Solo, a Star Wars story, and it's a Century print.
I was going to ask you guys like two questions. One, would you recommend the book over the movie? And two, like what would you rate this book overall?
Jeremy, you want to go first?
I would rate this book over the movie because one, it's easier to find in the movie. Well, actually, that's not true anymore.
It's digital copies everywhere now.
Yeah, but back like when Matthew first introduced me to this, like a couple of years ago, you could not find this movie anywhere.
It's still not available on Blu-ray.
No, this needs. I don't know. It must be some licensing thing.
Yeah, like when Matthew was recommending it to me to read it, like I just typed it in like on a free streaming app that I have on my Roku, and it was just there, but it was only going to be there for like maybe 2 or 3 days. I'm like, ooh, I gotta watch it now, you know.
Yeah.
But this book is significantly better than the movie. I would out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Yeah, I gave it an A+. I love it. I mean, I'm one of those people that like, yeah, I love the book, but I think the film, maybe the film just has a special place for me because like I saw this movie when I was like 3 or 4 years old for the first time, and then like I've always remembered it, and then I sing it on TV once, maybe in junior high again, be like, oh yeah, I remember this. I love this movie. I've always remembered it, and then finding it when I was in college on like the digital format when they started releasing digital format movies, like I had to buy it, and now like I bought it on iTunes. I bought it on the Amazon TV. So I have it because for some reason it won't cross over onto one of my TVs because it doesn't accept both platforms. So like I own the DVD, like 2 copies. I love the movie. I just wish it would be on Blu-ray. We can have the hard copy of it, you know?
I did actually see that Amazon was selling the movie posters for it.
Yeah. I love the movie posters. So it's hard for me to say if I recommend the book over the movie. If you can't find the movie, definitely get the book. Can't find the book, get the movie.
I would personally go with recommend my experience. I saw the movie first, and then I read the book because like you get that surprise of like getting all of the extra detail. So
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like, but the visual of Vermithrax to me is the coolest looking dragon from any film, any like picture that I've ever seen of a dragon. Vermithrax takes the taco.
Yeah, like I said, it's I think it's tied with the close-ups from Goblet of Fire, not the distance shots that turns into a horrible CG effect.
Yeah. Because I told you ILM was involved, and there is that photo out there. You could type it in Google. Vermithrax fights. What is that thing from Star Wars? The Rancor. And you'll see where they put the 2 models that they had together, like where they're fighting, and it looks really cool.
I'll have to go check that out.
It's awesome.
Now, I'm gonna confess, like both the ending of the film and the book, I might have been a little bit confused. Like, were they trying to imply that like Vermithrax was the final dragon, like ever, and like all magic was gone? So
pretty much, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's what there's tie in what you're saying. There's a quote that I wrote down, or an excerpt, whatever you want to call it, that I thought was pretty good. It's Valerian and Galen were talking to each other, but it says, all that knowledge and wisdom I could have learned, it could have kept it. Sorry, I'm reading these tiny notes. Yeah, all that knowledge and wisdom I could have learned, I could have kept it and passed it on. And then Valerian says, perhaps, she says, there's room for only so much wisdom in the world. Perhaps it changes. Perhaps it has to die in some ways before it can be born and others. So I thought that was pretty neat. Basically saying that it's a season where things need to die off, and maybe eventually sometime down the line it'll all come back. Which reminded me of another book series out there that I haven't finished. Just fantasy stuff in general, just always about repetition and the wizards die off and they come back again.
Like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. And like with the ending too, with the film, I liked it better because it's hard to, because the book explains the reason that the movie doesn't. When he turns around and there's the horse, like, oh, I wish we had a horse, and they turn around and the horse comes up over the hill in the movie, and he starts laughing, and you don't understand that unless you've read the book, because you used to be able to just summon animals, and it says that he's like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I used to just, I'd say I want a horse, and a horse would appear, and then like they hear a horse in the distance, and they're like, okay, in the book, and then he's about to do something else, and Valerian's like, just stop, and then the book ends. So it's like kind of ends on a joke.
Yeah, I was just if I was Galen at that point, like, okay, now I want $1 million, like,
yeah. So it was cool too that there was wasn't there a not just the raven, but like a big hawk or eagle that was soaring away from Kraganmore that comes across the blight and is like, oh, there's something crazy is about to happen over here before he continues on. Do you remember that?
Was that?
Or I can't remember if it was a hawk, or was that the big crane that Galen sees in the river that makes him pause, and he's like, what's going on here? And then then Gringe comes again, like the last time we see Gringe, and another animal appear. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, what chapter was that again?
Oh, man, I can't remember. Some of these things are so long. It might have been 9. No,
we're getting to the end of the podcast when they have to pull out the book and reread it.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, there's some cool things in the book that weren't in the movie.
Well, speaking of which, Jeremy, that's one thing that I did notice, that this actually does not have an audiobook version of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably does. It just doesn't exist on streaming. It's probably an abridged cassette somewhere.
In some foreign language.
We find it at like... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like, I keep glancing at my notes and seeing all these different things too, like with Tyrion, like when he was confessed his fear of the dragon, he's like, oh, dragons live forever, they're immortal. And Cassadorus is like, Tyrion, there's been 2 in your lifetime. They can die. Yeah,
because they talk about heroes going off to kill dragons.
Yeah.
There is some success.
And like they've dropped off, like they dropped some names like Cantware and Anric.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember those.
And then after the dragons were killed, they said like those places erupted in chaos. So it was like kind of like the dragons kind of kept people in order, like fear me, not each other.
There's
more like I can't wear pants.
Yeah, the comments.
The location too, can't wear.
It's very it's got hints of like smog in it, like where it's just he rules that mountain, and like
I'm sorry, what was that you said? What was that name?
Can't wear.
Smog.
You mean
Smaug?
Smaug. But no, like where, I mean, one, the dragons are immortal, like, and they can only die if they're killed, like otherwise they won't. And
just die.
Yeah, and 2, they kind of like people are always like, kept in. Dragons always keep people in check, basically. Yeah, like.
Yeah. And what I thought too was really fascinating is like when Galen was coming to Erland, it has Vermithrax sitting on the ledge of its lair, like up on the entryway. It's just kind of like relaxing, and then it like I think it says like the Vermithrax puts its head up and it like senses something, like there's a storm coming, and like it's overwhelmed with this unease and discomfort. So it just turns around and like goes into the cave down to the lake of fire. So it was like it sensed the amulet that Galen had around his neck, which I guess held the spirit of Ulrich.
Well,
I guess.
It was magical, and he hadn't dealt. it hadn't dealt with magic in a while.
Right, but but just I love how it sensed it, like danger's coming for me.
You know, it's like in Highlander, whenever an immortal runs into another immortal, they like sense them. There, Matt. You happy? I put some Highlander in this podcast. I did that for you. I've just been waiting.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed the book. Like it was, like I said, it was different. Like, and not just like because it was different from the movie. It was just, like I said, I have not read a lot of fantasy that involves like wizards and dragons and knights and everything. But so yeah, I mean, I still thought that it was good, and I would give it an A.
Yeah, and what's cool is like it ties into kind of like a realistic fantasy in a way, because it's
like based in medieval England,
right?
Yeah.
Because you have like the Christians are coming around, and the magic dies, so it explains like why we don't have all these sorcerers running around today, is because it just kind of died out, replaced by other faith and religions and stuff.
We're talking about when the band Saxon fought the Romans. It's a good time. It's a good time had by all.
I will say what happened in both the book and the film that I'm still annoyed with is that, the king is celebrated for
being the Dragonslayer.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what?
Well, in the book, though, you do get the sense that he knows, like, because there's a moment when Galen, he's leaving Erlen, him and Valerian are like, let's just get out of here. And like they see the king on the road and they stop, and the king just like kind of stares at them, with like sorrow on his face. It's like he knows, like, I'm about to go steal your thunder, and I feel horrible about it.
Like, here's your amulet back,
Yeah, he's like, here, you can do this better than I can. But when they do finally actually leave, they cross paths again, and like that's when Valerian's like, we're leaving. It kind of like stops their little like stare down that they're having.
Yeah, he's like, you son of a,
Yeah, and it was cool too that they explained like why Valerian was disguised the whole time as a male, because her mother was a victim of the lottery.
Yeah, I like that. I like that description. It was very sad, and as a father, I probably would have done the same thing, honestly.
Yeah. So that's a crazy thing that, like, if you read the book after you see the movie, that can serve as like a little, oh, cool, I didn't know that. But if you read the book first and then you watch the movie, you're like, how come we didn't explain that?
Yeah,
so it was like one of those little like surprise nuggets that you're like, oh, cool.
I personally always like watching the movies first and then reading the book, because I like looking for those Easter eggs or those deleted scenes, or where it goes more in depth on like certain other aspects of the story. And then because then I could like the next time I watch it with my wife, I'd be like, hey, did you know that I did that a lot with the James Luceno Plagueis book. And then we watched Attack or the Phantom Menace again. Like, did you know at this time Plagueis was doing this? And she enjoys that.
We have all those the travelers from Erlen that went to Kraganmore. Those names, like Grail, he was cool. I mean, you felt bad for the guy because his daughter was lost to the dragon, but he like gets angry and pissy and tries to fight Galen, and then everybody kind of like punches him and kicks him and stuff. So then he like comes up later and says, I'm sorry. But in the movie, you don't know any of that stuff. But one of the other travelers, I thought the name was funny. And I don't know, in the movie Alien, what are those aliens called?
Xenomorphs.
And this guy's name was like Xenophobius or something like that.
I pronounce it as Xenophobius.
Xenophobius, the Mueller or Meller or whatever. I don't know what that is.
Now, I was going to ask, I may have missed it, but why is it women?
I can't remember.
I think the idea originally was they were sacrificing virgins. And the Vermithrax is so elderly. Doesn't care at this point, so they're just sacrificing any woman. Well, at this time, you have to understand these are like basically Puritans, so it's not like they're having like relations out of wedlock. So for the most part, they're mostly unwed.
Yeah,
with the exception, which I found interesting, of Valerian's mother. Because I was under the opinion when watching the movie that they were all like unwed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they never did say that. But yeah,
Well,
it's just
them in white and stuff, and that's like pagan. Because there's some pagan sort of things going on in this with the sacrificing.
yeah. Everything has to follow exactly the order that's been written. They even say like, oh, it's been written that you have to sit in the wagon. Oh, you have to be tied. It says it. Like that was kind of comical too, because the guy, which I still can't remember his name, like every time when Melissa would be like, "Oh, can I do this?" He like, "Oh, but it's written in the Codex Dracorum that you have to have the flower in your hair." It's just like everything is like, "Well, it's written in the Dragus." You're like, "Okay, we get it." Dude.
It's like rules are rules.
Yeah, it's driving me crazy that I can't remember his name all of a sudden.
Yeah, to be fair, like it's like what Jeremy said. Like there's like a lot of names and like weird names in this. Like Galen is probably the easiest name to remember because one, it's so simple, and two, obviously Star Wars again. But yeah.
The Jacobus, his death was pretty gruesome. You get just charred. This is when you do notice like Vermithrax just doesn't care at this point in his life, her life.
Vermithrax lives in agony.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, here's a free meal, just like chars it and moves on, like doesn't care. He's like, you get behind me, you foul demon, and it's just engulfed in flame. Kind of comical, but also pretty bad.
Oh yeah, no, it's horrifying in the book. We're just playing it up for laughs right now because it's funny when people just get horribly like it turned into a charcoal clump, and they keep referencing the charcoal clump that is.
Oh yeah, they do several times.
In fact, the white raven
lands like right next to him.
Two characters that are pieces of charcoal.
Yeah, it's just so gruesome. And like, doesn't it describe Jacobus as like he's just a withered up charcoal piece that's like all twisted and like his arms like sticking up, pointing to the sky. It's like, wow, this is disturbing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a comment that says xenophobus means he hates foreign people.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, the guy did hold a grudge. He didn't feel at ease with Galen or Hodge or anybody. So it can make sense.
All right. Closing thoughts, people. We're getting to that time.
Get this book. It's easy to get on eBay for super cheap.
Or just be like, hey, Matt, can I borrow it? That's where I got my book.
How many copies?
Yeah, how many?
I have, well, we've got the comic adaptation. I've got the 2-issue comics, like the singles. We got that one. And this one. And I've got 4 of these plus the hardcover. So a few.
By the way, people, I had the hardcover before he did.
You did, yes.
Jealous of me?
Yep. I was like, oh man. And yours is in really good condition too, isn't it?
Well, this one you gave me not so much, but the one that one had never been read or was read once without the dust jacket on.
Yeah, see, this one that I have in my hand, the one that I did read, when I got this one, it was in perfect condition. Kind of like these other 2, these foreign ones that I have, which, these haven't been read. These look like they were someone that collected books that just like, oh, I'm going to put these up on the shelf and never read them. Kind of like a lot of my books. But even the comic adaptation, the spine is perfect. It's not creased at all. But I have the other copies of this that I do have been read, and they're pretty messed up. But when I got this one, it was perfect. This crease happened last weekend, and it made me sad.
You should have read one of the beater copies.
I should have. But I was like, oh, I want to hold it in my hand and be all crisp and clean. That's what happens. You ruin books.
Yeah.
I was say on eBay, like I said, you can find them. A lot of them are on there for under $5 and free shipping.
And yeah, like I recommend both. See the movie, then or like read the book first, or whichever you prefer. But like,
yeah,
read the book, see the movie.
Yeah.
But I was also going to remind our viewers that after this podcast ends, we're going to be doing a live stream just almost immediately after. So, and then we'll answer more of your questions and, and discuss the book with you and other stuff as well. So, but should we go ahead and tell them like what's going to be going down in paper movies like for the next 2 months?
Yeah, sir. Since we got it laid out, Jeremy, you want to go ahead and do?
Okay. For those of you Stupid Chainsaw Production fans, July is a special time because we live in times of conflict and it's really hot. So that means it's the summer of the Predator. We're doing a ton of Predator stuff, and every weekend in July, we will be watching a Predator movie.
Oh,
and
nice.
Some commentary. But our book club for next month, the month of July, is from Christopher. Oh gosh,
Isn't Christopher Golden?
His novelization of the last Predator film, The Predator.
Yeah. And it's going to be on Stupid Chainsaw Productions channel.
Yes,
on the last Thursday, most likely the last Thursday of next month.
And in August, this is probably going to be on Geeks Addict's channel, but I requested that for August we're going to be doing Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep, Indiana Jones.
So that'll be for August. And Matthew, you want to say what's going to be going on your channel for the month of July, like as far as reviews go?
I'm going to have, well, no, I don't know what I'm going to have. Another Star Wars book review. I'm going to try to get another Legends book out there, and I think that might be it. I just purchased a few books at the bookstore that I would like to get through, but most likely we're going to do a Star Wars book. So,
nice. I will say next week before the 4th of July, I'm planning to do a Jaws movie review with like some comparisons to the book, and I do have I'll be reviewing The Dark Knight Returns, with kind of the same thing, the book, but comparisons to the movie. But I do have a podcast I have to finish editing. So, but yeah, also, you guys can also, Jeremy's going to actually uploading the audio to this podcast on Spotify. Like you got us a spot on Spotify.
Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play Music, and I think that's it. Maybe Google Podcast.
Before we close out, I would recommend that you guys pick up the Dragonslayer soundtrack. It's available on iTunes and I believe Amazon as well. Great music by Alex North. You can tell it's from like the early 80s, but most of it, theme song.
Reminds me of Conan the Barbarian, if you all are familiar with that one.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for the second episode of Paper Movies. Thank you all so much for joining. And just a reminder, like in just a few minutes, we're going to do a live stream discussion with all of you guys. So just stick around for that. And thank you guys again. Be sure to go check out Geeks Addict at his channel and go check out Stupid Chainsaw Production. And we will see you guys in just a few minutes.
Peace out.